الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله الذي ألف بالإسلام بين قلوب المؤمنين وأوجب اتحادا وحرم تفرقا بكتابه المبين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله والذي بعثه في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لا في ضلال مبين اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد فيا عباد الله أوصيكم ونفسي أولا بتقوى الله تعالى وطاعته. That is, all praise is due to Allah, who has united the hearts of the believers with Islam, al-Islam. And He obligates us to remain united. And He forbids that we become separated in His book, which is most high. We witness that none deserves worship except Allah, who's one alone, having no partners, no associates. There's nothing like or comparable to Him. And we witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is Allah's servant and His messenger, whom He raised up from among those who did not know Scripture. He recited upon them the signs of Allah, purified them, taught them the book and the wisdom, when before this they were in manifest error. O Allah, send prayers, the peace, the highest exaltation upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, upon his family, his companions who call to the way of their Lord with wisdom and excellent preaching, and may Allah be pleased with them all. And concerning what follows, I advise you, as well as I advise myself, to fear Allah and thereafter be obedient to Him. We thank Allah for today. We thank Allah that everyone made it here safe. From wherever your journey to Houston began, or even if you're local and you drove here from whatever part of the city you drove from, we thank Allah that He blessed you and your journey to be safe, and that we are here enjoying the company of the believers, fulfilling our obligation to serve and worship Allah and to establish prayer. Our topic today is manifesting our abstract aspirations through material establishment. Manifesting our abstract aspirations through material establishment. And brothers and sisters, as we look at the Quran and we look at the word of Allah, nothing in it, and you know this, so I'm just reminding all of us, nothing in it is done without communicating a message. Everything. Everything about the Quran, everything about how it was revealed, the words, the structures of the sentences, everything has a logic and a purpose behind it. And it is instructive to you and I how the revelation of the Quran begins. How it begins. The revelation of the Quran does not begin by making a pronouncement about rituals. The Quran doesn't begin by saying pray. The Quran doesn't begin by saying fast. The Quran doesn't begin by saying give charity. It doesn't begin by saying make pilgrimage to the house. It begins with a verb. It begins with a command verb. Iqra. Iqra. Read. Read. So mashallah, what we tell the local community is when you come in, come to the front. If you sit at the front, then mashallah, you're already there. So, but think about that for a moment. Just think about that for a moment. That the only command in the first 5 ayah that began the revelation of the Quran is to read. And it's fi'l amr. It's a command verb. It's not a suggestion. It's not a recommendation. Iqra. Read. Now you know later, aqimus salat. Later comes establish prayer. Later comes give in charity. Later comes make pilgrimage to the house. Those come later. Later comes fast. And depending on what history book you read, there was a while that this was it. These 5 ayahs, that was it. There wasn't the Quran that we have now with 114 surah It was just these first few verses of revelation to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So at that point in time, in order for you to be a Muslim, you had to read. That's how you fulfilled your religious obligations, by reading. And that's a sign to you and I that Allah instructs us with a command to read. And once Allah made that command to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was never the same again. His life took a new direction, or it was always intended for that direction, but he became aware of the direction that was always intended for him. It's better to say his life was never the same again. And the circumstances surrounding him began to change. They began to change because before Allah told him, Iqra, the atmosphere and environment was not being influenced by the word of God. But as soon as Allah tells him, Iqra, that atmosphere begins to be impacted and influenced by the word of Allah. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam starts to live the Quran. He starts to live it. He didn't wait to 114 chapters to be revealed or surahs to be revealed to start living the Quran. From the very second he began to live what Allah commanded him to do, he lived each ayah. So as soon as Allah said Iqra, the abstract aspiration for a model for human life and behavior, once the spirit, the natural soul that God has given man comes in contact with the revelation or word of Allah, as soon as Allah said Iqra, and as soon as the Prophet said Iqra, he became a material manifestation of the abstract aspirations that Allah was communicating in the Quran. Allahu Akbar. From the very moment or in addition to, it says Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Rabb who has created. Now, we're most of us are students of the same teacher. Most of us. And if you're not, mashallah, it's not, I didn't say that to be exclusionary. If I graduate from Harvard, I graduate from Harvard. If I graduate from Rutgers or Yale, I graduate from Rutgers or Yale. It is in the Muslim tradition that you respect your teachers. Wherever you go in the world, in every Muslim tradition, they respect the teachers who taught them. Allahu Akbar. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who did what? Who created, right? Now, when we read this, we know that he's connected with his creator, right? He's connected with the natural world. He's connected with the environment that he has been exposed to his whole life. But it's also, or in addition, it's telling us something else. Because as you read through the Quran, eventually you come to an ayah where Allah says that He is Ahsanul Khaliqeen. Ahsanul Khaliqeen. That He is the best of the what? Khaliqeen. And Khaliqeen means what? Creators, right? So Allah saying He's the best of the creators, plural. So that means Allah is not the only one that creates. He's the only one that creates something from nothing. But He's not the only one that creates. This speaker that you're hearing, it was made. But it was only made using the materials, the design, the laws, the logic that Allah had already put in the creation. Right? So we create, but our creation is imperfect. Allah's creation is perfect. But in order for us to manifest in the material world, our abstract aspirations, you and I have to understand that we are creators. God did not send us here just to be consumers. Allah did not send us here just to see what everybody else is doing. Allah sent you here to be a creator. You may say, create what? Create what you can based on the gifts that Allah has given you. Your gift isn't my gift. And my gift isn't your gift. But Allah has given you a gift. Now, Tafsir Quran bil Quran, right? That's the law of tafsir, right? And tafsir means explanation of the Quran. For everybody who may not be familiar with this, right? And it doesn't mean you're not a good Muslim if you're not familiar with that. You know, you have some people who can spout tafsir all day, but in their behavior, they're savages. God would prefer your decency. So work on being decent. Work on being a decent human being. Because that's most important. Because if you're a decent human being, once you get the knowledge, there's nothing that will cloud the expression of the knowledge. If you're corrupt, may Allah protect us all from corruption. Then you're corrupt and you get knowledge, then the knowledge can't be expressed unless it comes through your corruption first. And that's why Allah chose Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was pure. He was absolutely pure. He was pure because nothing was to interrupt what Allah wanted to make in the world. So tafsir Quran bil Quran. So Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Now let's connect this with Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la alladhi khalaqa fasawwa. Now notice two things, many similarities, but Iqra bismi rabbika, right? Sabbih isma rabbika. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la alladhi khalaqa. So in both of these expressions, one comes in chapter 97, I'm sorry. One comes in 96. One comes in 87. Okay? Now, two things in common. Rab and khalaqa. Rab and khalaqa, right? So, in both of these, Rab precedes khalaqa, in both of them. Rab is cherisher, sustainer, nurturer, right? Garnivar. The one that takes it from rough state to refinement, from immaturity to maturity, right? And it evolves along a sequential process where it has to leave immaturity in one expression, then come into maturity in another expression. But when it gets to that maturity in the second expression, it's immature still, because it has to go to a third expression, right? Min nutfa, right? Min ma'in, right? Then nutfa, alaqata, mudghah, right? So you're leaving indefinite because it's mudghatan and mudghata, right? So even in that ayah, and that's in 23 inshallah, where Allah says He made you from a sperm, right? And then from a clinging substance. So you have to do this because we make all these assumptions, right? We make assumptions that everyone knows where this particular ayah is. Then afterwards you're like, brother, you don't know? No, look, man, I don't. Why don't you teach me? Yeah, brother, I need to be your teacher. You got it all wrong. Humility. So, as you are creating, there's a process. You can't go from an idea to full manifestation without thinking the process through and respecting what is necessary to manifest in the world what your aspirations desire. Now, when we built this message here in Houston, right down the street before you leave, I think it's part of the tour, mashallah. When you get there, you're going to think you're in West Africa. If you've never been there before, you think you're in Jenny, West Africa. Because it's built directly from the mouth of Imam Dr. Muhammad. When he said we're going to decorate this country with mosque, and you all were there at that Ramadan session. And we probably were looking at each other. When he said it, he said we're going to decorate the landscape of America with mosque built on West African architecture with minarets. So as soon as he said that was the Iqra moment. That was the reading moment. He was expressing a collective aspiration and telling us how to manifest it in material reality. But we didn't just come back to Houston, wow, let's build this mosque, and then 2 weeks later it was built. No, you had to build a team. You had to build a team of individuals with like mind, with like aspiration, with good morality, with different skills. We couldn't have just imams on there, we'd still be teaching out in the parking lot. You have to have different individuals. You get you an engineer, put your engineer on it. Get you a financier, because if you don't have money, you're not going to manifest anything but khutbah. That's it. All you're going to do is give a good talk, and everybody's going to leave out, mashallah, it was a good talk. And then 2 years later, it's still a good talk. You get you a construction expert, not just an engineer. The engineer puts the scheme together, but the construction expert, he has to put it together on the ground. Then you have to bring out a geotech company to test the soil. So the geotech company can tell the architect or the engineer how he needs to build the foundation so that your beautiful idea won't fall apart once you get it up. Then you have to get you a motivator. One who, when it looks bleak, it looks bad, it looks like all these obstacles are coming up, he's saying, if Allah has willed it, we will get it. If Allah has willed it, we will get it. He said, never tell the believers never to despair of the mercy of God. And when the believers ask, when will the help of God come? Tell them the help of God is near. Allahu Akbar. So you need all of these pieces. And you can't shortcome them. You can't shortcut it. Because if you try to rush it to maturity without going through the proper processes, what you get, as Allah says in the Quran, what about the mosque whose foundation is not built on taqwa from day one? From day one. And then you have to give people freedom. You know, when I first came into office, I learned if I would try to micromanage stuff, I would drive myself crazy. And I would stifle everyone who ain't working for me, they ain't working for you. They ain't working, no. They're working for God. You're just charged with a responsibility. They're working for God. So trust them to do what Allah has given them the genius to do. He gave it to them to serve the community. So allow it to serve its purpose. Rob, so respect the process. Respect the stepwise process so you can get the khalaqa. Then, فَسَوَّى. Then he gave it shape. He gave it, not finished yet. Although he made it, it still has a place to go. So now you have this building, but you don't have a community yet. Because there's more things in your abstract aspirations that need a material expression. So you're not finished yet. God says that He shaped it and gave it its form. What is your form, brothers and sisters? Find it. Yeah, you look in the mirror, that's your physical form. What is your abstract form? When you study our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of his companions weren't the same. They were different. Some were hard-nosed. Would break a rock. And some would cry when they led the prayer. And once the Prophet told Aisha radiallahu anha to tell Abu Bakr to lead the prayer because he was sick. And Aisha decided, I'm going to do something different because Abu Bakr cries when he needs the prayer. So she said she had Omar lead the prayer. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he found out, he said, y'all are gonna change what I said while I'm still with you? Listen to that. Listen to that. There's great wisdom in that. If they were changing it when he was still with, even if it wasn't bad intention. Understand what I'm saying? Even if it wasn't bad intention, right? There's a reason the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam pointed Abu Bakr. There was a reason. Now, if you remember, later on, Abu Bakr's on his way, he's leaving. He's leaving the world. And someone says, Omar should be the leader. And then someone else said, nah, man, Omar's too hard. So I'm going to put in 2018 language. That brother eat rocks. And don't break any teeth. Then Abu Bakr said, he's only like that to give me balance. So God has given us all a physical form. He has given us an abstract form. He has given you an abstract aspiration for your community that has a form. And the only place you're going to discover that form is the Quran. If not, you're going to allow all these other influences to dictate what it looks like on the outside. You want family life? Is that a material? Is that an abstract aspiration? Well, what is it going to look like on the outside? Confusion? It depends on what you apply. قَدَّرَ وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ. Then he gave it, he measured it. I know some people translate this word as destiny. Qadra means to ordain, to measure something. We have a destiny. We have a destiny as individuals, and we have a destiny collectively. When Allah revealed Iqra to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the destiny was Medina al-Munawwarah. That was the destiny. But when it was Iqra, you couldn't see. He had to go through his companions getting killed. He had to go through two exoduses, right? Or hijrah, right? He made it twice. He made it to Abyssinia, then they made it to Medina, right? He had to go through 3 years of social boycott. He had to go through getting stoned. Now some people, I understand, some people debate these historical facts. That's for another discussion. Okay. Something happened in thought. The story, some people may suggest some of the stories were over-exaggerated. He was still treated very bad when he went to that city. He had to go through his wife and his uncle dying in the same year. He had to go through his family, his blood family, his clan that protected him, turning against him. He had to be homeless. The messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was homeless. And if you would have asked some people, will you ever have Medina al-Munawwarah? Those without conviction may have said, brother, I don't know if we're ever going to have it. But those who had the strongest faith, this is not to criticize anyone. In every people, you have those with very strong faith. You have those whose faith is like barely hanging on. Right? You almost lost it. And then you have the majority of the people. That's in any group. Pray that Allah strengthens our faith, inshallah. Pray that He makes our faith stronger. Let's submit more so that Allah will strengthen our faith. If you would have asked some, will you ever get Medina al-Munawwarah? They would have said, brother, it ain't looking good. You would have asked others, are we ever going to get Medina al-Munawwarah? They would have told you, wa'adallahi haqqa. That the promise of God is true. But you're not going to get it without going through the struggles necessary for it to manifest itself. Allahu Akbar. Even when they went to Medina, there was a whole new set of challenges. So you have a destiny. As a community, we have a collective destiny. As an individual, you have a destiny. As a family, you have a destiny. Then God says, "Fahada." Then He guided it. This is important. Let's say that I want to go to Atlanta today. Khalaqa, well, I'm created. God created me. I got a car that was created by man. There's roads that was created by man. Somewhere, Atlanta is there. Washington D.C., wherever. Qadara. Okay. If I press my foot on the gas pedal, Allah has put it already in that system that it will go down the road. But if I don't have guidance, I'm not going to end up in Atlanta. I'm not going to end up in Washington, D.C. I'm not going to end up in New York City, wherever I'm supposed to go. Now, when you study the life of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you go back and read the Quran and read it, some people say that Imam Muhammad didn't tell us to study classical religion. He did. He told us to study the Quran. He told us to study the life example Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He told us to study the four khulafa, all of them. He said, but study it in the context for your life. Study it in the context for your life. How to take those, now I'm adding this, how to take those lessons and apply them to your life. So, when you're studying the life of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
guidance came down as part of his daily life.
An event would happen. They blamed Aisha with adultery, right? 20-some days later, revelation came down. Now, but it didn't just say she was innocent. It taught them how to deal with these cases in the future, right? It said that you should get witnesses, right? And then it said, why did the believers say these things? Why did they put the best construction on it? They said things on their lips that they thought was a simple thing, but with God it was a grave thing. Said they should never repeat this behavior. That's guidance. So you and I face these situations every day in our life. Every day. And Allah has given us the guidance in the Quran through the life example Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if you have some abstract aspirations, whatever they are, and it's not you as an individual, it's collective. What we learned from our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he took shura. And it wasn't an exercise just to say, we take shura. It was a real institution. And at some of the most critical moments in his life, when everything was on the line, when it was the most serious matters, he consulted his community, and when their opinion differed from his, if they were strong on that position, he was known to change his position to respect their contribution to the collective community life. So if our communities aren't progressing, if we're not manifesting our material reality, we have to go back and study the Quran as real guidance and start applying these principles. Because if we apply these principles, سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى. Then it says والذي أخرج المرعى. You see the wisdom? He said, then he brings out. He brings forth the produce. He brings it forth from the earth, letting us know that he did all of this before the produce was manifested. So if you want the produce to manifest, you have to go back through the process. And I'm not saying this in a critical way, but as a clinician. I'm a clinician. If you come to me and you tell me I have irritable bowel syndrome, I can't look at you and say, you have what? I have to do a medical history on you. I have to do some I have to look at your genetic history. I have to do possibly look at how your enzymes are being produced. Right? I can do some tests to see if you're not producing the right thing. Then after I get all of that information, then I can address the challenge. So when I say if you're not having the progress that you want in your community, it's not a critical thing, saying you're wrong. No, it's saying we all want to be successful. We all want success in life. And wherever we're not finding that success in our life, we have to go back and examine the process. And make sure we're following the process, because Allah has given us everything that we need for success. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, I have to apologize to the local community because they're used to 30-minute Jumahs. They are. They're used to 30-minute Jumahs. We started that 4 or 5 years ago. And you know what happened? Our numbers grew. They did. Our attendance grew. And some people came to me and he said, these people that can give nice donations, right? They came to me and said, Imam, thank you. I'm not going to get fired from my job. They said, I always wanted to come here, Imam, but I only have an hour for lunch. I had to get back to work. So I never knew when to come, because 1 week the khutbah is 45 minutes, then it's an hour and a half. Some weeks it's 2 hours. Like, man, my job's not going to give me all that time. Then what do we get all holy? We say, brother, then you need to get your own job, brother. Brother, don't let them control you. Start your own business. Then as soon as the light bill's not paid, can you give donations? That's right. So then that brother follows you. I did it once, right? The Imam said, quit your job, work for yourself. I was like, I was young. I was like in my early 20s. I was like, yeah, I'm right for. I had a good job too. I was working security, right? So I'm all filled with the spirit, and I go, I resign my job, and then I come back to the Imam. I said, Imam, I did it. He said, you did what? I said, I quit my job. He said, you did what? I'm like, Imam, you like last week, you were like, get off those jobs. So I had to apologize to the local community, because some of you probably came thinking this was a 30-minute Jumu'ah, but this is a time to be grateful. So I ask for your forgiveness. Okay? Now, if you're in trouble when you get back to work, mashallah. We're going to make dua right now that Allah makes that easy for you. That you just get a copy of the khutbah and take it and give it to your boss, right? And why are you late for work? Here, man. This is why I'm late for work. You never know. You never know. But alhamdulillah, on a serious note, if your Jumu'ahs are like 9 people, that's because it's 2 hours. Cut it to around 30 minutes. Hey, you following other people? No, I'm not. I'm actually following Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm following Imam Dr. Muhammad, because you were there with me, and we were sitting there together. Imam Muhammad did a 30-minute Jumah. Then he stopped. Then he got back up, and he said, Jumah's done. The religious obligation is done. Then he talked for 2 hours more. So if you want to keep a 3-hour Jumah, mashallah, do it. But let the people go after 30 minutes. Then they're gone. And all those who want the whole 3 hours, they will sit. And they will listen. See, some people are afraid to do that because they think the crowd's going to dwindle.